Hi, thank you once again for joining me on my program. Today I'm going to bring a short teaching on fruit bearers. You know, God has called all of us to be fruit bearers. And in this season, we should really be bearing a lot of fruit. We are given a time of what we have called lovingly shelter in faith. Well, what are we doing in a time of shelter in faith? And so the Lord brought some scriptures to my mind today, and I thought I would share them with you. And I'm going to use the New King James Version, and I wrote it out so I could save a little time. In John chapter 15, verses 4 and 5, he said, "Abide in me," in Jesus, "and I in you." Well, that sounds like salvation, doesn't it? It sounds like the beginning of something great. As the branch cannot bear fruit of itself unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me. You know, I often think of a tree limb or something like that, or even blueberries or blackberries or raspberries. You take that stem off, that branch off of the vine, you won't get any fruit from this. It has to come from the vine. The tree, you break off a branch and you don't get fruit without it being connected to the main trunk of the tree. God tells us that it's the same principle, the same way. There is certain fruit that we are to bear as Christians, to be letting show forth. And I'm going to get into that in just a moment. But he says, Jesus tells us, "I am the vine, you are the branches." Well, there's our relationship, our position. He is the main vine, and we're the branch connected to him. "He who abides in me and I in him bears much fruit, for without me you can do nothing." Verse 8, "By this my Father is glorified, that you bear much fruit, so you will be my disciples." Well, now, if we are to bear much fruit, and that's the way the Father is glorified, well, what fruit are we talking about? What is Jesus telling us here? What fruit are we bearing? If that's the way the Father receives glory, then we need to know what fruit brings him glory. And by the way, it will happen naturally as you are connected to the vine. The branch doesn't work up the production of fruit. It flows from the vine into the branch, and the branch just displays it so that it can be picked from the branch. It's not really picked from the vine, is it? It's picked from the branch off of the vine. We have much fruit to produce, which brings God the Father glory. So let's see quickly what it is. Oh, and by the way, he says in verse 10 of John 15, "If you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love." Now, why did Jesus tell us all this? As I said, verse 11, "These things I have spoken to you, that my joy may remain in you, and that your joy may be full." Did you know when you're bearing all this fruit and you're keeping the commandments of God, there is a joy that is just overflowing out of us, and there is an abundance of good fruit. Galatians 5, verses 22 and 23 tells us what the good fruit is. Verse 22. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, kindness, goodness, faithfulness. 23. Gentleness, self-control. Against such there is no law. So the fruit that would come from us as God's children, the branch attached to the vine, the fruit that would be in abundance coming from us is love for everyone, joy overflowing, peace all inside of us that just seems to exude peace to those around us, long suffering, kindness. I have seen in my studies where long suffering and kindness go together. The closer we are to God, the closer we are in abiding in His Word, kindness will be attached to long suffering. There's long suffering like in intolerance. We might just be putting up with somebody and letting them know that they need to be glad that we're just showing a little mercy right now. And then there's those that long suffering is done in such gentleness and such kindness that they know mercy was extended. So there's long suffering with kindness. And then there's that goodness and faithfulness. Faithfulness and gentleness, just it's the character that we want to exude as one of God's children. And then self-control. This is a season right now where self-control is a fruit that we all could use. Kindness, gentleness, long-suffering with those who don't know God the way we might. We need to have a lot of love and peace and joy and long-suffering and kindness and gentleness so that others can be drawn to God. This is a season to let God's fruits be shown. And the only way to do that is to abide in Him and obey His commandments of love. Thank you for staying with me on this short teaching today. I pray that you too will be a fruit bearer. God bless you.